Okay, Chair, the recording has started.
Diolch yn fawr. Prynawn da chi gyd a croeso i chi i'r cyfarfod yma prynawn yma. Welcome to the South West Wales CJC Joint Committee meeting. I'll open by saying that I'm chairing today because we've received apologies from Councillor Rob Stewart, who was unable to attend. So Councillor David Hopkins is here in his place. Welcome to you, David. I'll start as well just by mentioning that the meeting, as we know, is being recorded. I'd be grateful if you make sure that microphones are switched to mute unless speaking, that your mobile phones are switched off, and that you raise your electronic hand if you wish to ask a question. Felly gyda ni, newn ni symud mlaen I item 2 ar yr agenda, sef datganiadau o ddiddordeb, a na I ofyn os oes gan unrhyw aelod unrhyw ddiddordeb I ddatgan. Byddwn yn gweld unrhyw law yn codi, felly newn ni symud mlaen I item 3 ar yr agenda, sef cofnodion y cyfarfod diwetha. Y cyfarfod y gynnalwyd ar y 7fed o Rhagfyr y flwyddyn diwetha. Maen nhw ger eich bron chi mwyn cael eu cymeradwyo. Oes yna unrhyw sylwadau ynglyn â'r cywirdeb? Os nag oes fe na I ofyn am gynigydd os gwelwch yn dda bod ni'n derbyn y cofnodion. Thank you, David. Diolch yn fawr. A gai eilydd hefyd, please.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Steve. So I'll ask then if we can all raise our hands if we're content to accept the minutes. Diolch yn fawr. Great, diolch yn fawr. Felly, newn ni symud mlaen i'r item nesaf, item 4, sef y blaen rhaglen waith. Mwyn nodi mewn, fyddwch chi'n gweld bod dim byd yn blaen rhaglen waith fel myddi ar y foment. Swyddogion, Karen, do you want to come in quickly on this point just to explain the context?
Thank you very much, Councillor Price. Depending on whether members are minded to support the corporate plan in the meeting this afternoon, we'll be populating the forward work programme then to ensure that the delivery of the corporate plan formulates the basis of the business of the committee over the next 12 months. So the next time we bring it back, you should see a fully populated work plan.
Great, diolch Karen, thank you very much for that. So if members are content with that, it's just for noting purposes, so we will develop that then in the background over the next few weeks. Newn ni symud mlaen at item 5, os ydych chi'n hapus ar yr agenda, sef blaen rhaglen waith y prif weithredwr, a gai ofyn I Craig Griffiths I gyflwyno'r adroddiad os gwelwch yn dda cyn bod ni'n cael unrhyw drafodaeth ar y mater. Diolch I ti, Craig.
Thank you very much, Chair. So as members will see from the content of the report, that when we had firstly constituted the Corporate Joint Committee, it was determined that the role of the Chief Executive would be a rolling role, which effectively then would see the post move between various Chief Executives within the region. The first Chief Executive appointed was Karen Jones of Neath Talbot Council. The proposal ultimately before members is to note that Mr William Bramble, the Chief Executive of Pembrokeshire Council, would be the next Chief Executive of the Corporate Joint Committee, but it is intended that role will commence from the 1st of November 2023, it being felt that the November date would be the most appropriate date for this transfer to take place, as it will enable existing governance arrangements to be concluded, and a new Chief Executive will be in place then prior to the budget setting process for 24-25 and priorities for the forthcoming year to be established. So the information is included within that report, Chair, and for members' decision here today.
Great, diolch Craig. Oes yna unrhyw gwestiynau neu unrhyw sylwadau ar y pwynt yma? Na, pobl yn weddol hapus fi'n credu. Felly, felly Will iddyn mewn i'r gadair fel prif weithredwr yn mis Tachwedd ymlaen. A felly nawr byddai'r amser priodol felly I ddiolch I Karen am ei gwaith dros yr amser diwetha. Mae wedi bod yn waith pwysig wrth sefydlu'r CJC, a mae'n siŵr bod pawb yn ddiolchgar iawn am y gwaith mae hi wedi wneud dros y misoedd a'r blynyddoedd diwetha. Diolch yn fawr I ti Karen am dy waith, mae wedi cael ei werthfawrogi yn sicr. Felly, gai ofyn yn ffurfiol te, mae angen bod ni'n cynnig ac yn eilio ac yn cytuno ar yr hyn sydd ar yr agenda. Felly, gai ofyn I rywun I gynnig yr argymelliad, please. Diolch, David. A mae eisiau eilydd hefyd, sgwch yna?
Happy to second, Darren.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you both. a gai ofyn yn ffurfiol i bawb i ddangos trwy gwrych dwylo bod chi'n hapus gyda'r argymhelliad, plîs. Diolch yn fawr. Gret, mae hwnna wedi ei dderbyn, felly fydd Will yn dechrau yn y rôl o fis Tachwedd ymlaen. Edrych mlaen i gydweithio gyda Will hefyd dros y cyfnod nesaf. Felly gyda hynny, newn ni symud ymlaen i eitem 6, sef y cynllun corfforaethol rhwng 2023 hyd at 2028, a gai ofyn i Karen Jones fel y prif ar y foment i gyflwyno'r adroddiad. Diolch, Karen.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for your kind words, but I would make the point it's a team effort, very well supported by Owain, Chris and by Craig, but just to give you an assurance as well, the 4 chief executives, together with the senior officers from the parks authorities, meet regularly and we work very much together on this. So I'm grateful for your words, but it needs to reflect it's been very much and continues to be a team effort. So coming on to the corporate plan, what you've got before you is the final version of the plan, which has been revised to take on board comments we received back following the public consultation process that you authorised us to commence. And perhaps I'll ask Owain, who's overseen that, to just give you a flavour of what the consultation feedback has been. But the plan also has been based on the budget that you set earlier this year as well. As you know, you had a number of options to consider when we put the budget before you. So what we've now done is revised down the programme for the next 12 months to fit with the investment that you've planned to make over that period. So there's probably not a lot more I want to say by way of introducing the report, Chair, because I think probably Owain's got a bit more detail about what we received back from the public consultation period, which is probably more pertinent for the meeting today.
Gret, diolch Karen. Owain, ti'n hapus i gyflwyno? Diolch.
Dim problem, diolch Cadeirydd a diolch Karen. So o'ch blaenau mae amryw o bapurau, ond i grynhoi, mae ydych chi ryw grynodeb o'r ymatebion a ddaeth i law. So amryw o faterion, fi'n siŵr bod chi wedi cael cyfle i ddarllen rhai ohonynt. Hefyd mae gennych chi argymhellion o ran newidiadau i'r cynllun yn ei ffurf drafft. Yn aml jyst i mater o eglurhad neu gadarnhau rhyw fath o negesion penodol. A wedyn wrth gwrs mae gyda chi gopi o'r cynllun fel mae'n cael ei argymell yn ei ffurf terfynol. Amryw o sylwadau, hapus i drafod unrhyw sylwad penodol, ond fi'n credu hoffwn i ddiolch rili i'r cyngorau sy'n aelodau a'r parciau yn godi ymwybyddiaeth o'r ymgynghoriad. Hefyd wrth gwrs i'r swyddogion statudol a hefyd i'r cyfarwyddwyr yn yr ardal yn y rhanbarth nath gyfrannu yn helaeth ati. Wrth gwrs, dechrau daith yw hwn, so o ran y broses, felly codi ymwybyddiaeth o'r lot o fe o ran y cynllun corfforaethol. Fel wedi si amryw neges, a fi'n credu bydd ffocws yn naturiol nawr ar y cynlluniau sy'n dod allan a troi a gwireddu y cynllun corfforaethol. Ond yn hyderus yn argymhellion ni fel swyddogion i chi aelodau bod cynnig i chi fabwysiadu ar y cynllun yn ei ffurf terfynol, i ni wedi cynnal ymgynghoriad gyhoeddus, a mewn hyn o beth ni wedi dechrau daith o ran gosod sylfaen y symud ymlaen. So hapus i ateb unrhyw gwestiynau yna, Cadeirydd. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr ti, Owain, am hwnna. Diolch yn fawr chi gyd fel swyddogion am eich gwaith dros y misoedd diwethaf wrth dynnu fe at ei gilydd a fel rhan o dod ar ymatebion at ei gilydd hefyd gyda'r ymgynghoriad. Mae'n waith pwysig. Os yna unrhyw sylwadau, unrhyw gwestiynau wrth aelodau etholedig, neu ydych chi'n weddol hapus gyda'r hyn sydd o'ch blaenau chi? Dwi ddim yn gweld. David, do you want to come in?
Yeah, Chair, I just like to point out on page, the first page actually, 1, about people who were asked, did they agree with our vision of the CJC, and 80% of the people agreed with it. They either agreed with it or strongly agreed with it. So I think that is a good starting point, that they've got an understanding of the vision and where we want to go. So I think, I can only thank the the people who responded, but 80% of the people who responded positively, I think is a good way forward.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thank
As I say, the work streams have been set out, haven't they? And we're aware of what the duties are for us as a CJC. And I suppose the devil is in the details, isn't it? You know, and now that we've got the trajectory and the direction of travel, the job now is to set about and try and implement improvements across those work streams. But yeah, I think I agree with David. I think the issues that we outline there and the objectives that we set out are all laudable and are things that that matter to people across the region. So the task now is to try and implement those and crack on with the work. But are there any further comments or queries? As I say, this has been a process. It's not happened overnight, so we've been aware of the content of the plan for quite some time. It's been subject to consultation publicly, and we're now at the point of final adoption. So with that, then, if there aren't any further comments or queries, I'll ask for somebody to formally propose that we accept the corporate plan.
Propose it, Chair.
Diolch, David. A gai ofyn hefyd i rywun i eilio yn swyddogol, sgwch yna.
Happy to second.
Diolch, Steve. A gai ofyn i bawb trwy dangos, trwy gwrdd dwylo os ych chi'n hapus i dderbyn yn swyddogol, sgwch yna. Pawb yn gytun, felly mae'n unfrydol. Diolch yn fawr i chi gyd, aelodau. A unwaith eto, diolch yn fawr i chi fel staff a swyddogion sydd wedi gweithio yn y cefndir i sicrhau fod y ddogfen yma ger yn bron ni y pnawn yma. Diolch yn fawr i chi am eich gwaith. Felly, newn ni symud ymlaen te item 7 ar yr agenda, sef y cynllun rhanbarthol ar trafnidiaeth. A gai ofyn i Mark Wade i gyflwyno'r adroddiad, os gwelwch yn dda. Mark?
Chair, I believe Mark Wade has given his apologies, so I don't know if one of the other officers on the call wants to take this report instead.
Okay, I have a feeling it might be Stuart Davis, is it?
I think, yeah, thank you. Yes, I'll run through just a summary of the sort of report, so I won't go through it line by line, but just to give a flavour of some of the key pointers in there. This stems from the duties that were placed on the CJC to develop and to produce a regional transport plan and get it approved. So the first stage of that is we've been issued with draft guidance in terms of how the plan is to, what's to be sort of involved as part of the development of the plan, how it's to look, and as part of that guidance, we're required to give sort of feedback in terms of to Welsh Government. So officers have been through and worked through the guidance, and in section 6 of the report, it summarises the sort of key findings. There's I guess a number of concerns really with the sort of timescale and the duties and the resources and things relating to it. So I'll try and touch on some of the key points without going through it sort of line by line. The first element really is, as I say, it's about the resources in terms of on there. It's a significant piece of work, and a lot of this work will fall to what are already sort of stretched existing resources in each of the authorities. So there's a real concern with that. It has been acknowledged by the CJC that there's a need for a programme manager to be appointed in terms of for that, and the job description has been developed, and a sort of green light once that's in place to advertise and attempt to recruit into that post. So that will be progressed. The timescales are very ambitious. There's an awful lot of work done with a lot of it being sort of front loaded. So there's a lot of sort of study work and things which are to be carried out. And it's very challenging in terms of on the detail that's required. So we're certainly concerns with that. In terms of the policy framework, there's a concern that it's very much a top-down. That are we going to have the latitude to develop a transport plan that's fit for purpose for the region? Obviously, a lot of the policy framework is, does have a strong focus on the sustainability, which is right. There's a focus on that, but there's also needs to be the right focus on the economy, with transport being a key enabler for how to develop and improve the economy and enable those improvements. So we need to make sure that we can reflect that in terms of our needs. The there was some suggestion that possibly a Burns type of commission would be involved with developing the regional transport plan, but there's got a strong feeling that the responsibility sits with the CJC, and to have an additional layer of bureaucracy is not something that would be necessarily supported, and would take away from the democratic responsibilities of the local authorities who make up the CJCs. So the concerns sort of flagged up with that one. There's certainly concerns with the amount of data analysis and things which has been talked about. And although there's mention of Transport for Wales possibly supporting that, there's no clarity as to how much support they'll be able to provide. And in addition to that, whether there's going to be funding for that to develop. Transport for Wales obviously have limited resources. There's a requirement for the regional transport plans to be developed across all 4 regions, which everyone's going to be coming to the table at the same time and asking for support. So we haven't got any surety that those resources are there to support it. So there's concerns with that. And then there's also concerns about the level of resource that's going to not just the resource to develop it, but the level of resource which is going to be allocated for developing projects and programs which are coming out from the regional transport plan. When the plans were developed initially back in 2010, there was a very sort of clear message to be ambitious in terms of the nature of what we were going to do from the transport interventions. And when the sort of programme was developed at the same time, there was a significant reduction in the amount of resources which were the sort of funding which was available to deliver those, which left us with an extremely ambitious programme of projects, but very little funding to deliver it. So it sort of ended up with a very aspirational plan which was never going to be delivered. So, and there's no clarity at the moment about the levels of funding which are coming ahead. And I think that's the sort of key things. I'm sure I missed 1 or 2 points in there, but just without sort of going through it line by line, I think those are some of the key points to flag up.
Great, Josh, thank you very much for that, Stuart. Yeah, clearly this, the development of transport infrastructure in the region is clearly something we want to get to grips with. But as we have mentioned previously on numerous occasions, the resource that needs to come with it is really important, isn't it? It's integral to the programme. I'm sure that leaders will want to comment on that now. I'll open it up then, and I'll ask David to come in first, and then Steve. Thank you. Diolch, David.
Steve was before me, actually, if you want to go, Steve.
I apologise.
No, age before beauty, David.
David said, yes.
I can only agree with you on the finance side, Darren. We've got to be very careful with this. The cost of the scheme to put it together as a plan, we have to look at that. But it's the cost afterwards is one of my worries. Obviously, that's hopefully borne by Welsh Government. But you see the metro in Cardiff now has escalated to £1 billion. So our scheme, I think, must be not aspirational or ambitious. I think it'll be realistic, and we've got to realise that that what we need is what we really should get, not the aspirations of whatever the city link. But one of the things that I am concerned about is the time that it takes to get these plans through. We've been talking about this for a long time now. You mentioned 2010 there. I didn't come on board till 2017. We were talking about it then. It's now 2023. My concern is I don't mind supporting this plan, but I want action into Pembrokeshire. I want the trains to go into Pembrokeshire, at least Haverfordwest, but more to, hopefully Milford Haven. I want these trains to be up and running and going. And I don't want to be here in 5 years' time, or another 12 years' time, wondering where it's all gone. And it's cost us an awful lot of money to get the plan together, but we haven't got the money to go forward. We need to be realistic and get our act together, I think. But I certainly want it. but I want it for Pembrokeshire as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, David. No, I think that sentiment is shared by all leaders. It has to be a regional transport plan in the true sense of the word. It has to meet the needs of not just the urban but the rural areas as well, and particularly those on the periphery. I think that's something that's absolutely central to this as we develop any plan going forward. David, thank you for that contribution. Steve, go over to the room, please. Diolch.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. I can't disagree with what David has said, and it's just a worry and a concern, really. I mean, it's critical to have a transport plan fit for the future, and I know behind the scenes an awful lot of work is going on as well. But when you look at, and apologies for being a little bit negative, but Welsh Government, as we know, highlighted the BESS programme for the buses, where the funding has been extended currently, but the long-term plan is to cut that, where it'll have a major impact. So when we're trying to join up all our regions, whether it's by rail, metro, bus services or whatever, then there's always something happening that's going to damage that because of funding. And don't get me wrong, I mean, maybe there'll be a new Westminster government within the next couple of years that can change things, that we may be able to have a greater funding pools to deliver on our aspirations, because that's what they are. I mean, David said he's been here a while. I'm new to this meeting, but again, as you get to know me, I don't like talking shops. I don't like places where you all have a clear vision of what to deliver on, but for years it just doesn't happen. I like to see progress. I like to see things happening, but I ultimately, I suppose it all depends on who's going to fund what, and our politicians at other levels perhaps actually having the same vision as us. So as I think lobbying is also very key from the CJC when we try to deliver for our communities. So, you know, from our chairs, and I think that goes down from all our committees and local authorities, I suppose. But to get it right, I suppose the partnership is key, and a joined up approach. So no, I welcome the paper, the regional transport plan and its guidance. But there's an awful lot in there, and I congratulate those people who put it together, you know, to get where we want to be. But delivering sometimes is going to be a lot more difficult, and let's not hide from the facts how that is a reality, I suppose, like David said. But thank you for allowing me to have my 2 penneth worth. Cheers.
Diolch, Steve. Na, mae'r pwyntiau ti'n godi yn rai pwysig ac yn rai ni wedi trafod eisoes yn y gyfeitio. Mae cyllido'r peth yma yn mynd i fod yn ganolog, dim just wrth greu y cynllun, hynny yw pwy sy'n mynd i ariannu creu y strategaeth yma, ond hefyd faint o arian cyfalaf sydd yn y system i ddilifro ar y weledigaeth ni. Because there is a risk, I absolutely agree with you, Steve. I think there is a risk that we end up creating a wish list for the region, which isn't deliverable in financial terms. And I think that's the worst thing possible, because we raise expectations falsely, and that will not help anybody. So I absolutely agree with you there. Clearly, as a CJC, we've made those points in terms of the need for revenue funding in the short term to support the plan, and the response that's been drafted by officers on our behalf highlights that really. Clearly, there's a lack of capacity within local authorities at the moment across the region to carry out this work. Therefore, there will be additional costs to generate the plan, and we've been quite clear with Welsh Government that we would expect them to fund that cost. That's the guiding principle that I know that leaders who were here before my time, when the CJCs were set up initially, that was the principle that was established. In other words, no additional duties unless there was additional funding, and I think that's important that we pursue that and we protect that principle. And there's also the issue in terms of actually the ability of consultants to carry out the work, because I think we've got 4 CJCs who are in similar positions here, who may all be going to consultants to support this programme at around the same time. So that's an issue in itself as well. And I think that's a really important point that's flagged up in the response from the Southwest. But I think the other fundamental one for me is the time frame in terms of when we're expected to finalise the regional transport plan, because of course it may be that the SDP, the Strategic Development Plan, may not have been developed by the time we're expected to submit our transport plan, which seems to be a little back to front, if we're being honest about it, isn't it? I mean, you'd expect the region's development plans to feature highly in terms of its transport infrastructure. So that's another issue that I think is really important that we flag as part of our response as a region. So yeah, lots of issues, and the recommendation is that we support and agree on the submission as is set out in the report. So beth na fi, os dagos unrhyw gwestiynau pellach neu os nagos neu unrhyw sylwadau pellach, na I ofyn I aelodau I gynnig bod ni'n derbyn yr argymhellion.
Opposed, Chair?
Diolch David, a gai ofyn am rywun I eilio yn ffurfiol bod ni'n derbyn, os gwelwch yn dda.
Happy to second that.
Diolch yn fawr, Steve, a gai ofyn I bawb deu ddangos os chi'n hapus I dderbyn yr argymhellion fel y maen nhw yn yr adroddiad, gallwch chi godi'ch dwylo os gwelwch yn dda. Diolch yn fawr, felly pawb wedi derbyn. Yr eitem nesaf ar yr agenda yw eitemau brys, a does dim wedi dod ger bron, felly allai gadarnhau fod ni wedi cwblhau y gwaith sydd ar yr agenda a bod y cyfarfod wedi dod I ben. Diolch yn fawr chi gyd am eich cyfraniadau a'ch sylwadau a'ch cwestiynau, a diolch yn fawr chi gyd fel swyddogion am eich gwaith yn y cefndir I sicrhau bod y adroddiadau yma ger yn bron ni pnawn yma. Diolch yn fawr chi gyd.
Thank you, Da.